Thank you, Barbara. As Barb said, I'm Bill Merschel, and I've been part of RTO, I'm going to say, for 3 or 4 years now. You think, Jim? Jim just invited me fairly soon after we moved to Wheaton from Ohio. And I've enjoyed immensely being here, being with you all, really being part of this really special community that happens every Thursday night. But I want to introduce you to my darling daughter, Jackie. She's my eldest. I have 3 children. Jackie and her husband, Dave, who's sitting over there rocking little Bobby. This is Bobby's first RTO, I suppose, right? He's about 4 months old, but this story has to do with Bobby tonight. So we thought we're going to try to see if he'll sleep or smile through tonight, right, Jackie? But Jackie and Dave live here in Glen Ellen. In fact, all 4 of us actually worship at this church, at Glen Ellen Bible Church. And tonight's story is about radical prayer. We talk a lot about radical prayer in this ministry. We pray a lot. We pray diligently. We pray radically. And I'll bet everybody in this room has a different definition of what radical prayer means to them. The definition that comes to my mind is a radical prayer is one that, if it's answered, it could only have been answered by God. It's like a miracle. It's something that we could not be responsible for. And as Manny often reminds us, it's okay to pray for a breakthrough. It's okay to make a really big prayer and to pray for something that's almost beyond what we think is possible. And that's what happened to Jackie and our family earlier this year. So I'm going to just lob a question or two to Jackie, and then I'll pass you the mic, and you can answer them, okay, for us? I'm going to take you all back to February, right? February of this year. Jackie was about 20 weeks pregnant with little Bobby at that time. And she went in for her normal doctor's appointment with her OB-GYN to just have her ultrasound, probably her first ultrasound. So just tell us what happened.
Yeah, so the ultrasound seemed to be taking a little bit longer than I was expecting. And I think in the back of my mind, I just felt like something was off. Maybe there was something wrong. And sure enough, the doctor came. When she came in, she said, there's a couple issues with your pregnancy. The first being that your placenta is not in the right place, which would mean some immediate changes to my lifestyle and a difficult last trimester, potential bed rest, and high risk of preterm labor. And then the second issue was the way my placenta was attaching. It was something that could potentially lead to not being able to have any more pregnancies. So 2 pretty discouraging issues.
I'm sure I still remember when you guys called Mom and me on the way home from that doctor's appointment, and how discouraged we felt at that moment too, because there were 2 things going on. There was a potential crisis pregnancy, and then there was a long-term issue that might have prevented Dave and Jackie from having any more children. So I've said kind of how I felt. How did you feel after learning that? I'm sure it was like discouraging, but just tell us a little bit about your feelings.
Yeah, so I think at first it was very overwhelming. I didn't really know my emotions. And then I felt some grief for my pregnancy not going as I had imagined it to go, and anxiety. And I think I also felt kind of a sense of weakness in just being so fragile and helpless in the situation. Just a little... I think I was wondering, physically if I was meant to even carry children, because this was the third pregnancy that something had gone a little bit wrong. My first pregnancy had complications. My second pregnancy had complications, and I had a miscarriage my first pregnancy. So I was just feeling kind of shattered. So.
Yeah. Very understandable. Well, I can still remember back in February and March, and we made some immediate changes in your lifestyle. You made a lot of changes in kind of what you did. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I had to eliminate any most physical activity, walking, long distances, picking up my 2-year-old. I couldn't do that. As I had to do that as infrequently as possible, which is hard. Grocery shopping, laundry. In fact, you came and helped me do my grocery shopping every week because I couldn't lift the groceries. So this is all to avoid the preterm labor.
Yes. Well, now let's turn to the impact of prayer. Both of us began radical prayer about that time. Do you want to tell us kind of what you were doing here in the church and with your friends and things like that?
Yeah, so immediately along with the lifestyle changes, I asked friends and family for prayer first, and then I have a small group of women that I meet with, and I ask them to pray, and the church, pastors and elders were all praying for me. Basically any opportunity I had to ask for prayer. If I had come to one of these meetings, I'm sure I would have put my request into the envelope in the center of the table. I was asking everyone to pray for the pregnancy. I had a little bit of trouble praying to ask for healing. I think I felt like, that is a big prayer. It's a big ask. And I was a little, I think, maybe anxious or scared of being disappointed. So.
Yeah. I wonder, Jackie, if that's sometimes it's not all that uncommon that we're hesitant to make the big prayer, that it's too big of an ask, and it's one of the things that we talk about here at RTO all the time, that there is no big prayer, and that indeed the biggest prayer is the one that God wants to hear. Well, anyway, things changed with Terry and me too with regard to prayer. I remember in that period, we just prayed all the time for this issue, and I was praying for a breakthrough. I mean, I was praying the big prayer. And I don't know about you guys, but I often wake up at least once in the middle of every night for some reason or another. And for about a month there, I remember distinctly every time I woke up, the first thing I thought about was that prayer, that Jackie would not only be healed, both on a short-term and a long-term basis. That was my prayer. And then I remember, too, Terry and I had a little trip to Nashville, Tennessee, right about that period. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of the Upper Room devotionals. It's a worldwide ministry that's headquartered in Nashville, and the Upper Room is literally located in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's a beautiful kind of a church-type building, and there is a three-dimensional piece of art of the Last Supper there. That's why it's called the Upper Room. But there's also a prayer room attached to that famous room that's known around the world. And I literally left a little card in that room with our specific prayer for Jackie. So there was a lot of prayer going on. We were praying here at RTO. I'm part of a men's Bible study here at Glen Ellen Bible. We prayed for Jackie at that point too. So one more example, Terry, or Jackie, that you shared with me was that you had a retreat that you were on with your job, and there was an instance of prayer there that was really impactful.
Yeah, this particular instance was very physically impactful. One of the women in the small group that I was a part of asked if she could lay hands on my stomach and ask God together for healing. And it was really the first time I can remember asking God, being a part of asking God myself for healing with this woman. And we both had a very real emotional reaction, and just felt like something had happened. So.
Well, okay. Let's fast forward now. I remember there was about a 6-week period. They didn't want you to go right back to get another ultrasound. They wanted a month or so to pass, and then you had to make an appointment with more of a crisis pregnancy doctor, right? And you went over to see him about 6 or 8 weeks after this first diagnosis, and you again had a technician come in and do the ultrasound.
Yeah, so we went to a maternal fetal specialist, and the technician came in and viewed the inside of my stomach, and the pregnancy looked perfectly normal. She saw no sign of attachment, and my placenta was back where it was supposed to be. So,
Yeah. It was quite a miracle. And I remember you guys calling Mom and me on the way home from that appointment too. Whoop, Bobby's coming, waking up. Funny, he'd wake up right about now. But that was the day. And then I guess just to complete the story, you then went back to your original doctor, to the same technician that had done the earlier diagnosis. Now that you just went back to your regular doctor again, maybe a couple weeks after that, and tell us what happened that day.
Yeah, that was really cool because she had seen the original ultrasound, so she had seen what it looked like before. And when she did her scan this time, I think she was pretty amazed to see everything had been so completely resolved. And there was no indication of any sort of attachment. And she is a believer too, so I think she knew that it was supernatural. So it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really something. Well, as we said, that's Bobby right over there with Dave. He's now 4 months old. He's a very healthy young man. He eats a lot, sleeps pretty well too. But I'm just wondering, maybe just to wrap this up, Jackie, if you were to kind of summarize what you were taught from this experience, how would you put that into words?
Yeah, that miracles happen and that God answers big prayers, even mine. So, yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Well, as Barb mentioned a few minutes, we do give thanks, as David said in the psalm, and we feel like we've had an incredible miracle in our family. And I believe that it's really important for each of us, every one of us in this room, when we see God at work in our lives, we shouldn't be afraid to tell other people about it. We each can have a testimony, and I'm very proud of Jackie for having the courage to come up and share a testimony that will live with you forever today. Thank you, everybody.